We've been hoping you'd come. Your chair is waiting. Come on in. But leave those burdens that you've been carrying around outside the door. They're clogging your good heart and your good ears. You don't need the extra weight for a few minutes. The original book that I am reading is called The Flower of Freedom. All rights to the book and to this presentation are reserved. We're continuing with Chapter 13, Stark Realities. All settled in? Great. Be comfortable and be blessed. Chapter 13, Stark Realities. The kitchen staff at the luncheon told their friends that they had overheard the mayor yelling shortly after the lunch began, but that the commandant had told him to sit down and finish his lunch in a quiet voice. The mayor tried to storm out, but he was restrained by the guards at the door. Later, the mayor was found hanging from a tree in the town square. That changed everything. Peace-loving people became part of the resistance. They were willing to risk everything to get their children back. Jean-Luc Desjardins later learned that his father had led them. He organized meetings in barns and in cellars. He selected those he trusted the most, and he excluded those who were unreliable or vulnerable. This was life and death. This might mean the survival of their children, so no mistakes could be tolerated. The mayor's wife was under surveillance most of the time, so they included her only sporadically, but she still had contacts, and she supplied a lot of information. They finally believed what Father Joseph had been telling them. Soon they sent the poachers to the next village, which was known to be a hotbed of resistance, to gain support. It took some time to find the leaders because they were very wary, but they too had heard the rumors of the events at the Chateau, and they were dedicated to helping. That's how Jean-Luc's papa, Thomas Desjardins, met Desmond Goulet. He wasn't sure he liked the man, for Desmond was a rough and uncouth character. He did not speak proper French. He spoke like an uneducated farmhand from some other part of France. But he did not have to like him. Thomas had to get his children back, and he would walk through hell and shake hands with the devil to accomplish that goal. The man Desmond had a fire in his belly for combating corrupt authority. He knew things about the Nazis, the collaborators, and their tactics that surprised everyone. He had access to information and technology that no one else could get. Desmond was a godsend, even if he came in a womanizing, drunken, irreverent package. Even Father Joseph believed in Desmond. They bided their time. They studied the residents of the chateau. Their children were not returned to them at the end of the school year as promised. They were supposed to be returned in time to help on the farm in preparation for harvest. The mothers had prepared their rooms and looked forward to catching up with their children, despite all the evidence. No reason or excuse was given. Somehow, everyone knew that the outcome would not be good. The townsfolk and the resistance from both towns decided that one night in early August was the night to take back the children and their part of the world. The women and the smaller children who were unable to fight were sent to seek refuge in the neighboring town. They were led through the darkened woods, and they were received with love. Desmond was able to bring in armed fighters from far and wide over the previous week. They bunked in haylofts and in cellars. Desmond even got a small quantity of explosives. There was a photographer there that night named Fay. The plan was that in the small hours of the moonlit night, some men led by poachers who knew the way would enter through the forest gate to the grounds of the chateau and take out as many guards as possible, so that the next phase would come as a surprise for the safety of the children. When the poacher team gave the signal of the barn owl hooting, the townsfolk and the resistance would breach the compound around the chateau and storm the front entrance, while the poacher team went into the chateau and the dormitory floors to retrieve the children. Those at the front of the chateau hoped to draw most of the German force to them to preserve the lives of their kids. It started out well. Poacher team had several trained resistance fighters and Thomas. The poachers led them through the dark woods without a misstep, and they pointed out the graves that had increased in number. Resistance fighters made short work of the lock on the gate and of the guards at each door. No alarm was raised because the guards were garroted in silence. Peace-loving men were forced to kill other human beings to rescue their children. They crossed lines that none of them ever wanted to cross. A poacher who had been sent back through the forest gate to give the barn owl cry that night, his job was to conduct those who were rescued out into the forest and beyond to relative safety. He gave the fighters that he had left within the building a few moments to make headway after he went back through the gate. When he stumbled over a fresh grave, the horror and the emotion he felt stirred him to give the barn owl cry a few minutes early. Meanwhile, Thomas and the resistance fighters were within the chateau. They found the passageway to the dormitory, and they killed guards who stood in their way, and they dragged them into closets and storage rooms. Entering the girls' dormitory, they tried not to alarm the girls, but they had to put their hands over their mouths to prevent screaming. Still, no alarm was raised, but then they heard the explosives at the gate by the road and the pandemonium of orders being barked in German, and the running feet that pounded down distant corridors. They looked at one another with terror. Too soon. That's the end of chapter 13 of A Flower of Freedom. We're delighted you've been here with us, and we look forward to seeing you for chapter 14, which is called Escape.
You shut it off.